So you guys are in a position to win the Western Conference with a victory this weekend. How good does it feel to know you control your own fate in this way going into the final day of the regular season?
The way I see it, playoffs start this Sunday. You know, that's the way we're going to approach it. Obviously, if we win the game, we shave off a game in the playoffs. So we're at home, playing a very good team in Vancouver, a team that's at the top of the league. Obviously, that's where we want to be. We know it'll be a great game, a rivalry game, and we know it's at stake, and confident this group's going to be up for it.
You guys have 2 wins against Vancouver this year, but they have, I think, have had a better.
Sorry about that.
They've obviously moved up the standings in the last few months. What are going to be the keys for the game?
I say this a lot when we play Vancouver. I mean, they know who they are, and they're very effective in what they look to do, and same, they know who we are, we know who we are. We're pretty clear in what we look to do, and we've had some very good games with them. We have a lot of respect for their club, and I personally have a lot of respect for Carl. It seems like the rivalry boils over more and more as the years go on. I don't ever forget a game, and there have been some games that have left a bad taste in my mouth. And looking back on the history, and yet this is a new year, obviously, and I don't like to look back, and I'm not one of these guys that likes to bring in past years and past games into the next game. We're going to stay very focused and professional in looking to do what we want to do in this match. But they're a difficult opponent, and obviously they've shown that this year with where they're at, being at the top of the table.
Caleb, specifically, I know they like a counterattack, but what's made them, in your mind, what's gotten them to the top of the table when you look at the way they've played the last 2 months?
Well, they've always been an organized team defensively, with a good goalkeeper and very good center backs and Waston Parker. And, as a team, they're organized and tough to break down. I think the difference this year is they're more dynamic and, I would say, creative in the attack. So I think that's been the difference for them this year. They've scored more goals. They've been a bit better going forward. Still don't look to carry games too much, but I think they're more effective, with the ball in creating chances, whether that's in transition or when they do have a bit of the ball, they're more clever and creative. Reyna helps, Montero helps, and they've got a lot of depth as well on the wings. They can go with different guys that bring different things to the table.
When you think back, obviously, a big game in your season was the win at Vancouver with your depleted roster. Just talk about that moment and how it maybe helped you get to where you are now.
Yeah, I think there's always in every year, you can call them turning points. And I thought that was a turning point for us. We were very depleted. We went there with, only, I think, 16 players. That was with 2 T2 guys that we pulled up, so only 14 first-team players. And, we had, I think, maybe four or five starters in the lineup, and, we pulled off a very good result. And I thought that did, turn our season a little bit and brought a spirit to the team, and we've been on a good run, ever since. And that's why I was so passionate after that game. I knew it was a big one.
Well, I think we've talked to you since the U.S. was eliminated last week. Just what was your gut reaction to that when it happened? And I don't know how much you're busy, how much you thought about, but just your thoughts on what happened and the reaction to it, social media, all that.
I mean, I think I felt like everybody felt, exact same way. That was gut-wrenching. I think we were all heartbroken. I'm an American guy, American coach, and believe in the United States, believe in our league and believe in our players. And that belief hasn't changed because of a one day and one result. I think there's a lot of good, but also I think there'll be a lot more reflection because of the failure, and that's not a bad thing.
As someone who's been through that yourself, I imagine you maybe felt a little differently than the average fan because obviously you went through something very similar yourself.
Yeah,
So-
that's the tough thing about international coaching is it usually comes down to a couple results, and you don't have a 34-game body of work, and it's a challenge. You're measured on it's very black and white. You're measured on whether or not you get the job done in 1 or 2 games. So it was difficult, and it can turn quick. I mean, you saw that with the big win versus Panama, and then in one game, 4 days later, it all turned and it came crumbling down, and the whole narrative is completely different in 5 days. It reminded me a lot of, my experience with the Olympic qualifying. I had the team for 5 months. We lost 1 game, and that's including friendlies, 1 match. But ultimately, it's black and white.
I guess it's my turn to ask the weekly question. How is Mr. Adi this week?
Adi's good. He's doing good. He's as big and strong as ever, and he's getting healthier. No updates, though.
Okay.
Coach, you made some defensive changes going into the DC United game. You said you like to kind of set up a game for the next game. So what did you see defensively that worked so well Sunday, and how will it play into the game plan for this Sunday?
Yeah, good question. I mean, ironically, I set up, not to defend, but to attack. So, when you're playing a back 4, you can shape it up different ways where you play with a 4 that really stays connected. We've done that a few games and had good success that way. I felt in this game it was best to go with attacking outside backs. And that fit the game. It fit the wingers we played, and they executed really well. Obviously, Alves scored a goal, and Vitas was good going forward.
And speaking of Alves, first start, I believe, since August for him. So what have you seen in him that made you kind of give him the nod to start? And what do you think of the performance he gave you in his first start since August?
Well, I've always been a fan of Alves. I'm a fan of all my players, but especially when they're playing well. Alves has been here, I think it's 4 years now, and he was 18 years old when we gave him his debut. So I have a soft spot for Alves. He's a good young player, talented. He's also been a little inconsistent. That's been, like a lot of young players. And so he was injured during that time. That was a part of it, why he was out. And also I just felt, he wasn't playing well. He wasn't performing like he needed to perform. And ultimately I had to make a change. Because I like all the players, Zarek was deserving of the opportunity. And he took that opportunity and played really well. And so that's why he stayed in. But I'm always watching. And I'm watching every training, and I'm trying to keep a pulse on all my players all the time, so that I can get a fingertip feel on when I think a guy's ready to get back in. And I just had a feeling on Alves. He had looked really good in training for 2 weeks, looked hungry. Some guys, it's interesting, they look like they want the job, and some guys look like they don't want the job. And he looked like he wanted it.
Coach, you talked a little bit about this earlier in the season, but I'm curious to know if you think Diego Valeri is the MVP of this league.
Yeah, I said it after the game. I think he should get MVP. No doubt about it. Obviously, I'm biased, but if I wasn't biased, I'd say the same thing, because I think in terms of what he's produced, goals and assists, and what he's done for our team this year, we've had a lot of injuries. This is my 5th year. And in this year, ironically, we've had more injuries than we've ever had, even more than last year. And it's amazing for us to be where we're at through all that. But we wouldn't be where we're at if it wasn't for Valeri. He's carried us in a lot of games and produced goals. And when Adi's been out, he's come up with goals. His 8-game run, when we needed more, with Adi out, he gave us more. And so that's why I think he's deserving. And it would be a travesty if he doesn't win the MVP.
Coach, do you believe in momentum at all, especially the performance you guys had last week? Does that stuff carry over into the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a believer in energy and spirit and momentum of a team, and we have, seems like every year at the end of the year we get that going. Maybe that's just my rhythm by design. I let it happen, but I tell you what, our spirit right now has never been better. To be in training every day with this group of guys, and even off the pitch around the locker room with this group of guys is unlike any team I've seen, honestly. Really good energy right now. They're having fun. They're enjoying their football, which is what you want to see, and you saw it in the match. So we won't get ahead of ourselves. We got to bite off every game as it comes, which is what we always do. But it's going to take a really, really tough team to beat us, especially here at Providence Park.
You talked a little bit about the defense, but you guys have been, I don't know the stats right off the top of my head, but you guys have been very good defensively in recent weeks. Can you talk about the reason for that, in your opinion, and how you think the partnership between Mabiala and Ridgewell has come together?
Yeah, I think it's part personnel, obviously. I think, you have to look at the individuals, of course, because Larry's and Ridgie are in the boxes making key plays, goalkeeper Jeff, so you have to look at the individuals, but I think you also have to, more importantly, look at the team defending, and I think Darren Maddox has been a really key guy in starting our pressure and making it predictable, and Valeri has chipped in more than ever, and our wingers, and I said that last year when our wingers weren't defending last year in a lot of games, it really kills us. And this year we're getting good defending out of our wingers, which really helps. So I think it's a team thing, but certainly the personnel individually, we're getting plays out of guys individually as well, which is always important.